Blast off. Hello, everybody. We are so excited to be here. I am really, really jazzed to be here with my good friend and international best-selling author, Leah Carver. She is a biohacking, like, crazy guru. This woman has taught me so much. And we recently had a conversation to dive more into biohacking the other day. And I was like, I got to bring you onto Facebook and get the word out about biohacking, because I didn't even fully understand what it was. I was doing it, but I was like, I didn't even know I was doing it. And Leah, she has an incredible approach to really diving in to figure out, like, what are the specific biohacking techniques that are best for each individual. Am I saying that right? Like, thinking about the values, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But would you agree with that, Leah?
Yeah, totally. I love it.
So Leah is an international best-selling author of her first book, Undoing Hashimoto's, right? It's amazing. She runs some incredible programs on breathwork and spa, which we'll be talking about. And she is in the process of publishing her second book, Biohacking of the Ancients. Yes. How cool is that? So you guys, Leah is amazing, and we're just going to dive right in, kind of have a conversation, learn more about biohacking. What are some things that you maybe are already doing and you can give yourself a pat on the back, or there's some things that you don't know about that can be really supporting your health, helping you to remove inflammation from your body with these techniques that you could adopt. So thank you, Leah, for being here.
I am so excited. This is my favorite topic of conversation. So, anytime you want to talk about it, let me know.
That's so awesome. Let's just start with, what is biohacking? Like, I feel like inflammation is a buzzword, and biohacking is becoming one of those buzzwords, right? So
totally.
What is biohacking?
It's actually a lot easier than you think it is, right? And there's more complex definitions for sure. In my interpretation, the definition I like to use is when you're hacking your biology. Now, the modern day biohackers, there's a lot of equipment and things like that involved in it. Biofeedback, things like that would be a biohack, right? For me, I love the topic of biohacking of the ancients, using tried and true methods that science is actually coming out all the time and saying, oh my gosh, like, this actually works. But putting the science aside and looking at, like, the things that have come from, like, these ancient cultures and traditions and have stood the ultimate test, which is, to me, the test of time. Like, why are these things still around? Because they actually work and they support us and they're amazing.
Yeah.
And so, biohacking involves understanding your biology a little bit, understanding who we are as, like, a physical being, the systems of the body, how to manipulate, right? Like, the natural systems of the body to get your body to perform at its best.
Okay, I love that. So hacking our biology, we're really ultimately, like, if we kind of decompartmentalize that a little bit more, right? We're going into the different systems, and we're figuring out how to essentially help them operate at the best. And for me, I'm like, oh, that means that we must be removing inflammation, because always when we remove inflammation, our systems are working better. But then there's this idea of, like, I think of, if you were to imagine, like, a mason jar right over here, we'll do my water bottle. Like, if this is, well, my computer's going away. If, like, the bottom half is healing, right? Like, remove the inflammation and healing, the top half is, like, becoming vibrant and really that, like, optimal health, right? So there's, like, the healing component, and then there's the optimal health. And one of the things that I really love about biohacking is that it supports both of those.
Right.
It's a huge foundation to supporting both of those components. And so when you were describing to me, I'm like, okay, hacking our biology, like, what does that even mean? Like, how, like, and you were like, so in modern technology, you were telling me, like, oh, it could be like using ozone, or maybe I said, is this one, like, doing a hyperbaric chamber where you're pushing extra ozone into your body, or, ozone IVs, or you were even saying, like, bulletproof coffee is an example of biohacking, like right? So there's a lot of these more modernized technologies. I just did this machine called HOCAT machine, and it has like 7 different settings. It does like ozone and infrared, and like it does all these crazy things to help like detox and support the body. Those would all be defined as biohacking, correct?
Yes.
And those
Yes,
are more
exactly.
modern day biohacking.
Yes.
It's like our current technology that's supporting the body and health, which is so cool. But then you really zone in on the ancient biohacking and
Yes.
how, like you said, it's the tried and true. It's something that has been going, like, has worked for years and years and years. I'm like, okay, like meditation. Like for me, I'm like, that's a huge, that must be a biohack, right? Is that a biohack?
Total. Yeah.
Awesome. And I know that this is kind of a cheat because I've done it with you, but Leah has the most incredible bath spa like supplements. Like instead of taking an Epsom salt bath, it's like these amazing nutrients that you can tell people about. But like that's a biohack, right? So tell us then, what are the ancient, like I have like the top 6 inflammatory foods. Do you have like the top ancient biohacks that you think are most supportive for people for healing or for optimal health? And you could kind of differentiate the two, maybe.
I can for sure give you quite a few. I haven't actually categorized it as the top 6, but for me, spa is one of them. And spa can be broken down into like multiple levels. So thalassotherapy, it sounds like a different language.
Yeah.
Seaweeds and seawater therapy, anything that comes from using seaweeds and seawater to support the body. Essentially, our body is a salt body. It actually, the minerals and trace elements of our body actually completely match in a different proportion salt water, right? Like, so the blood plasma and salt water are the same. The minerals and trace elements of the bone are the same. You can find the same minerals and trace elements in the rocks of the ocean. Like, it's amazing.
Oh, so cool. Yeah.
This relationship, right? So we think we're not nature, and yet we are, right? Like, we're completely nature. We're just these stacks of ocean kind of walking around with a brain, and So I would say, thalassotherapy is absolutely one. Mud and fango therapy. People have bathed in muds, and they've used muds as healing poultices and all of these things. If you think back to the ancients, aromatherapy was used in ancient Egypt. These are all actually like ancient traditions that are being brought forward. The Roman civilization was so successful, I would say, because everywhere they went, they followed the water, right? So they would set up camps next to all the fresh springs, and they had the highest sanitary conditions.
Interesting.
Until after World War, right? Like, so we didn't have that highest sanitary condition until after World War, which is really pretty recent.
Yeah.
So just water in general, hydrotherapy, the treatment of, which is actually what spa means. The word spa actually means healing via water, which we would, in today's modern age, we might think of spa as a massage and a glass of champagne.
Yeah. It's a little different now.
Which is totally not what I think of spa as, right? And I always say, like, when's the last time you went to a doctor and he gave you a shot of vodka and then asked you how you were feeling, right? Because you'd be like, I feel pretty damn good right now. I just had a shot of vodka. I got no problem. I forgot that.
Yeah.
And that's what we do when we go to the spa. We have some champagne, we hang out with girlfriends, we think it's pampering. And that's totally one side of it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But there is also this really healing, even wellness, like you just said at the beginning, there's 2 different conversations here. There's healing and then there's wellness.
Yeah.
And I think that the spa can provide both of those. So that's a huge biohacking arena. And then I can pull on the yoga and say, like, meditation, breath, yoga nidra is freaking phenomenal biohack. There's so many.
So let's say, okay, people are listening, and even me, I'm like, okay, we've had conversations about the different nutrients in the different spa modalities that you use, or the meditation and the yoga nidra. Like I know from an inflammatory standpoint, like if you take a longer exhale than the inhale, that it's actually very detoxifying and helps to push inflammation. Like I know there's some components that directly tie in with inflammation. And we've talked about, like, even with spa, with you guys, this is such a awesome tip. If you want to detox, right, and you're taking a bath, you do a hot bath with, go and check out Leah's amazing spas, or like you could do even just Epsom salts, and it will really help to detox. And then Leah's like, take a cold shower right afterwards. It's really important. So tell us, from a detox standpoint, why would you want to do a hot bath with a cold shower? What does that do? And then tell us about the, what did you call it? Like lukewarm or air temperature, body temperature. Tell us what a bath with that temperature does for us. And this is a simple biohack that anyone can do, right? It's so simple. Just tell us why we would adopt these biohacks. What benefit will it have?
Let me just start by saying what I love about these biohacks is these are the things we're doing anyway, right? Like we're taking showers, we're taking baths. That's if we're going to do them, why not optimize and make it the best freaking experience, not just for us mentally, but physically, emotionally, like every level. Like, let's do that, because who has time to waste? I don't, right?
Yeah.
So the simple explanation of hot and cold contrast is that when you heat up the body, you create vasodilation, right? So the blood starts to flow, you get more fluid in your tissues. Have you ever been for like a walk and you notice like your rings are a little tighter after the walk, right? So you get more fluid in your tissues.
And oxygen. And oxygen, so
you get all the nutrients and everything, which is awesome, unless you have a sluggish return system, right? Which means that inflammation, like you speed everything up and then the body doesn't do a good job of actually taking it out. So sometimes people's ankles will swell when they're exercising and the swelling doesn't go away for a long time, right? So that would be indicative of like a lymphatic, like a sluggish lymphatic system or something going on in that, right? The return system's not great.
Gotcha.
The cold causes vasoconstriction. So what happens when your body feels cold is the immediate response to cold is, oh, let's go deep and protect the inner organs, right? So all the blood that now has been external flushes deep into all the organs. So you get this huge exchange of
interesting
blood, right? And so what happens when we get a huge exchange of blood is we get all those nutrients out, and then we get this like almost sucking of everything back in. So there's this huge purification process. And usually when you do something like this, the next step is you're gonna have to pee, right? Like you have to eliminate. And that's literally like your body going, okay, yeah, tissue fluid, tissue pressure, now we've got to eliminate. Our organs of elimination start to get involved.
Get the toxins and inflammation out.
Exactly. So like one of the things that I think people don't understand is if you go to a spa today, especially like a high-end spa, you're going to see a steam room and you're going to see a cold plunge. Nobody goes in the cold plunge. Like nobody goes.
I do. Perfect. I totally get brownie points. And it's like, oh, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it, but I know it's so good for me.
And then you have people that just don't know what they're doing. So they'll go like, oh, I'm going to go in the steam room for 5 minutes. Now I'm going to go in the sauna for 5 minutes. Now I'm going to get in the jacuzzi. Maybe I'll jump in the cold plunge. But when you actually understand, like for me, when I go to a spa, I would almost rather hang out in a really amazing locker room and do like steam and cold plunge, steam and cold plunge, steam and cold plunge, than have a treatment. Because it's amazing, the effects, right? Understanding the biology.
That is so cool. We have a beautiful Four Seasons here at Jackson Hole, like right on the mountain. And my mom and I, a few times a year, always treat ourselves. And we do just that. Like if you get a treatment, you get to hang out in like the spa area with the steam room and the cold plunge and everything all day long. So we'll go like 2 hours beforehand and do the cold plunge in the steam room and then go get our treatment.
Exactly. And that's like how you really, that's how you can, for me, it's like, well, why am I going to pay, $350 for a massage for an hour? Well, because I get to do all of this as well. Right? Yeah, so you maximize. Again, to me, biohacking is like, how do I maximize like the benefit of anything that I'm going to do for my body? I'm going to invest my time in, I'm investing my money in. Like, I want the highest return on investment possible.
Yeah. So if you know that you have a lot of extra toxins or inflammation in your body, which to be honest, like we almost all do, so many of us, it's so difficult to avoid chronic inflammation unless you really have shifted your diet. And even then there's like environmental toxins and there's stress and there's so many other things that cause inflammation that we have less control around. So taking a hot bath and then immediately getting in if you don't have a cold plunge at home, right? Like immediately getting in a cold shower is probably a great alternative to supporting.
It's a good alternative. And then, like, here's the ultimate thing is, like, then pay attention to how you feel. So if you have a lot of inflammation, do you want to be aggressive with the detoxification process, or do you want to be gentle, right? Like, is there inflammation in your tissues? Do you really need to increase blood flow? Or do you actually need to increase lymphatic circulation, in which case I would do a completely different protocol. So this becomes then like the really interesting thing. Am I working the circulatory system or am I working the lymphatic system?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes inflammation gets trapped in the lymphatic system.
Yep.
So this is where neutral temperature baths actually are amazing, because you can just the tissue pressure that's created from the water. So when you're immersed in water, you know, again, if you go for a swim, for example, you know, even children, if you put them in the pool, you know, they're always going to have to go to the bathroom, right? Like it just happens, like get in the pool, go to the bathroom, for us too. And so there's this compression that's created from water that automatically starts to flush, you know, kind of like a compression hose would flush the fluid back into the body. So if you've got a lot of stuff stuck in the tissues, I would stay more with neutral, because you don't want to add to the traffic jam, right? If you're adding to the traffic, you know what it's like to add to the traffic jam, right? Yeah. So instead of adding to the traffic jam, we're working on clearing the obstructions, moving the fluid out, and getting to the point that we can then at some point, hopefully, do more mild. So I wouldn't go hot water, cold, but all you need is an 18-degree temperature change. So you could typically work with, you know, 100-degree shower and a 80-degree shower, and you'd actually get some effect there. So depending on your level of health, I would be much more inclined to stay within that just 18-degree temperature change at first. Because again, in this busy life, like, who has time to go put themselves to bed like in a healing crisis, unless that's like something that you're doing very purposefully with like a schedule, right?
And I know this is something you talk about all the time, right? So in terms of, instead of having that huge contrast with, or even if you are detoxing, like if, for example, for me, right, if I'm having a Herxheimer reaction from the Lyme or from the parasites, from those neurotoxins, pushing myself into more of a detox, you're always like, Jenny, take that like neutral temperature bath, because our nervous system, it's so demanding on our nervous system to have Herxheimer reactions. If any of you are listening and you're like, yes, I have really big detoxes, Herxheimer reactions, you have a chronic condition that puts you into that state, that is really, really hard on the nervous system. If some of you are like, I feel amazing, I don't have health issues, I just want to like detox, like I had, you know, a night out on town, and maybe you want to just have like a detox, the hot and contrast might be really nice. But the neutral temperature is so soothing to the body and the nervous system. I'll find myself sitting in the bath sometimes for an hour or two, just in that neutral temperature, and I do feel so good when I get out. It's really nice.
No, and that's the thing is like, so what do we actually need? And our tendency, this is just human tendency, especially American human tendency, is like, the more intense it is, the better it is for me. And that's not true, right? So a big part of the question is learning to understand your body. And I really have to say that we don't do that enough, right? Like we learn how to use computers. We go to school to learn how to write papers. We learn how to, you know, do complex math problems. Like we learn all of these things, but we really don't spend any time learning about this vessel that we have to travel through life with. I mean, it's the one thing that will get us from the beginning of our life till the end. Yeah. And it's with health, the only thing that matters when you don't feel good is feeling better. It's
Totally.
like everything else is absolutely secondary. So it's really starting to understand and listen to what your body's saying to you. It's in conversation with you. How do I support it? And the nervous system is one of those systems that in today's high sensory world, we're constantly overloading. We're constantly
Yeah.
putting way too much information in and not giving ourselves the time to assimilate it.
Yeah.
It's amazing, but when we have too much to do, one of the first things that we'll actually contemplate giving up is sleep. We'll be like, well, I can just work into the night, I don't need my sleep.
Yeah.
And yet that's like absolutely vital to us being able to assimilate and process and heal from our day. Even with anti-inflammatory eating, it's like if you're eating all the right things, but you're constantly putting yourself in a state of stress, like your inflammation is going to be so high because there's just so much overloading you and coming at you. So how do you start to work with your nervous system? And like neutral temperature baths are one of those things. It's just like the womb, right? Like it's the most comfortable place in the world. And you can say float tanks. You can go to a float tank and do that. For me, that's more of a time investment. Like, why not just do that in my bathtub? And yes, go to a float tank, as like a special occasion, but like, how do I make these things that are accessible like right now? There's no reason not to do it.
That's so good. That's so good. I love how calming your voice is, because it's like, it's like all about just like getting really like bringing the nervous system lower. And just the other day when we were talking, you're like, when our nervous system is more supported, we can handle like those big detoxes or high stresses in life. Like we can move through those so much more gracefully and easily, right?
Yeah.
What? Okay, so we've just touched a little tiny, there's like one like baths, like hot and cool baths is like one tiny little tip of the iceberg in terms of all the different modalities of biohacking. And we don't have time to go through all of them, but I know that people are going to be able to find you and learn more about the different modalities of biohacking. But what I would love to hear, Leah, is like, can you share with us your story? Like what brought you into biohacking and how did it transform your life?
So, I mean, I've been in the spa industry for over 20 years. I grew up in the spa industry. My mother's an educator and a consultant in the spa industry. It was just my life, right? It was everything that I knew. And then I was teaching yoga and I had all of these tools, but honestly, as much as I loved them and I taught them to people, I didn't really understand how powerful they were because I hadn't had the experience of really needing it. So about 3 years ago, I got a really bad virus. I was super sick for 10 days. And I wasn't the person that ever got fevers or anything. So when I was like, had this huge fever, my throat was so swollen, I was really, really sick. Of course, I just pushed through. I kind of was like, oh, I'll take my natural supplements and my herbs and my honey. And when that didn't work, it was like Dayquil and NyQuil and, just keep going. It's going to go away, right? Yeah. And I was working full time, raising the kids, just doing everything that we as women specifically, I know men do a lot, but I'm a woman, so I know that as women, we're these nurturers and this is my story. I was trying to do what I thought everybody needed from me. And I would overextend myself again and again and again to try and help somebody else, right? To try and make somebody else's life better, to make my kids, my husband, everybody, my friends. And what I found was I just ran out of energy. I got this virus, it grounded me, it brought me to my knees, and I ended up with autoimmune. So I had no capacity to actually heal from the virus because I was just running on empty already. So it just took this one thing to kind of rock my whole world and change everything. And because I had such a diminished capacity, it did. So I ended up with autoimmune, specifically Hashimoto's. it's just the way my symptoms of stress manifested, right? So I think there's all different kinds of ways that inflammation shows up. Some people it's anxiety, other people it's Hashis, other people it's fibro. You know, there's all these ways that it just shows up. For some, it's just exhaustion.
Totally.
And I just started reeling, and I recognized that I was pushing so hard in my life and I was getting nowhere. Like I was just sustaining. I was literally getting through every day and I wasn't really getting anywhere. And so I had to start to shift everything. And I went to my acupuncturist, who's a functional medicine amazing person, and she was like, okay, here's the autoimmune paleo diet, you know, like do this. And I brought the book home and I read it and I was like, I'm gonna do this. I know how to eat well. You know, I luckily was raised on a good palate. Wellness was kind of part of it. And I did it really well for about, I don't know, 2-3 weeks. And then I crashed and I felt like a failure. And I beat myself up a little bit. And I told myself I needed to do better and I should do this. And so then I did it again and I failed again, you know, like 30 days later. And I just found that I was going through this process of like trying to make changes and they weren't sustainable because I was exhausted. I was overwhelmed. I was just like struggling through it. I was trying to discipline myself into it.
Right.
And even my meditation practice at that point felt like a discipline. It felt hard. It felt like something I was failing at. It felt like a way in which I wasn't good enough. Which is ridiculous. Like that is not the point of meditation.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And so I had to like just put it all down. I literally consciously had to be like, okay, what can I do successfully today to love myself well?
Nice.
And it started with baths for me because again, I had all this information, all this spa knowledge. And I was like, you know, I can nourish myself transdermally. I can bathe in these products that are going to feed my body. They're going to feed my soul. They're going to feed, you know, they're going to sustain me emotionally. I can just show up here for myself. And I had days that I would call like 2-a-days where it was like bath at 11 and bath at 3. And, you know, it was intense because I had to be that good at doing what I could do.
Right.
That then I started to gain the momentum and I started to feel a little bit better. And all of a sudden I could make bigger changes that had felt harder before because I was nourishing myself in a way that was helping me feel better. And so, you know, what I learned is discipline when you're empty doesn't work, right? It has to come from love. So if you nourish yourself, if you love yourself into creating change, then it becomes sustainable. It becomes something that you can maintain.
If you love yourself into creating.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thank you.
That's so sweet. And it's so powerful to be able to take action, just take action in something that resonates with you and that you can do. It's the gap between knowledge and action, knowing we should be doing something and not doing it, where we beat ourselves up and we fall down, right? Yeah. But when there's just take a tiny little, like take a bath, drink some water, like swap out one food or like do like meditate if that's your thing, like find something, one action step, and you begin to love yourself. Oh, that's so powerful. And you begin to feel confident and empowered. And it's like, oh, all of a sudden this space opens up for you to take on one more thing, right? And it's this incredible path and journey towards wellness and healing.
It's like climbing a ladder, right? Yeah. Like if you look at a high building, you know, and you want to be on the roof.
Yep.
It's one like step. The best way to get there is one step at a time, you know, like you can try jumping. Yeah. You might make it, you know, if you're Superman.
That's so awesome. I love that. Oh, so empowering. Such a beautiful, beautiful way to start the day. Thank you for coming on and joining us. Yeah. Tell everyone, where can they like find more information about you? Where can they learn more about this biohacking?
So, I mean, you can follow me on Instagram, which is just at Leah Carver. You can find me on Facebook, Leah Carver Wellness Coach, or you can email me, leah@leahcarver.com, or check out my website. Get my book for free from my website. You know, there's a lot going on. So, you know, for me, it's just like, oh my gosh, step into this conversation with yourself and really start to unpack what your body's saying to you. Really start to learn how to take care of yourself and like maximize. So if it's like anti-aging you're interested in, same stuff, right? If it's healing, same stuff. If it's wellness, same stuff. If it's changing your business or up leveling, it's all the same stuff. It just matters like, what's your pain point? What's speaking to you? What do you want to create change in? And really understanding this body as like the ultimate tool to do that, because we cannot be what we want to be if we're not in practice, in conversation with ourselves.
Yes, it is so true. We have to always take action of some sort. That is beautiful. Thank you so, so much. Thank you for coming and talking to everyone. I hope this was helpful for you guys. And I put Leah at leahcarver.com, Leah's email, so that if you have questions or want to reach out, get a free copy of her book, which is so amazing, on doing Hashimoto's, learn more about biohacking, be sure to do that. And I have a free pop-up Facebook group that's just started, Freedom from Inflammation. I'm super excited. We'll be discussing all things inflammation, how to melt it from your body, reverse chronic symptoms. So I'll put the link for that in the comments below too. Thank you, you guys. Have a great day. Mwah, Leah, hugs and kisses. And I know you're off on a retreat next Thursday, I believe. So you guys, if you want, I think there's space for 1 or 2 more people. Is there?
There are, yeah. And it's super easy to just see, because this, again, is my thing. Like, how do we make this easy? Like, how do I get away? How do I retreat? You know what? It's 2.5 days in the mountains. It's just about being, loving nature, being quiet. Yeah. Biohacking.
A lot of me time, right? A lot of me time to decompress and then try on some of these different biohacking strategies. It will be so relaxing. I wish I could make it. But if any of you are interested, be sure to email her and get details. All right. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, love.
Bye-bye.
Bye.